And last, we have creating a table by entering data. This one is the most curious to me. I know that if I'm going to create a table, the first thing I want to do is make sure that my data types are defined, my objects have all been defined with correct naming conventions, everything's laid out and sized exactly the way I want it to be, and then I'll go ahead and enter the data. So this is kind of backwards to me, but again, Microsoft is trying to make it easy on you, trying to help you out. And in this case, let's just double click on that object to open the window. You can see that we have something that looks very much like a spreadsheet view. There's a smattering of columns here, 1 through 10, offering you a starting point. Nothing's named, nothing's defined. What Access is going to do is watch the type of data that you're placing into these fields, and then it's going to try to guess accurately exactly what data you're entering. Well, I'm not going to play this game. You can try that out. I think it's a brilliant idea if it works. But again, I've done a lot of careful planning. I don't want to take any chances, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this method of creating a table to create a simple table for suppliers. And the suppliers table only has 2 fields. We have supplier ID and supplier name. So in the supplier ID, we might start with 1 and 2, 3, etc. And you'll see how it's already picked up that I'm creating a series of numbers, and it's started to continue that series with the value 4. And over here under field 2, I'm going to enter pens, ink, and chairs, ink. Of course, these are extremely fictitious. Paper, ink for all my stationery. Software supplies. Ink. See a pattern? Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've entered those. Now, in a real working database, not one that we're using for simple example purposes, I'd want to capture all of the supplier details as well. And in the suppliers table, I've kept it limited to just the simple ID and the name, so it can be correctly associated with the inventory. You, when you're building yours, you are going to capture all of the address information, phone numbers, emails, any contact information you have there, also probably information about their sales staff, and you'll have a notes field so that you can write notes about that supplier and your relationship with them. I've chosen to simplify it because we already have several large tables, and for the purpose of this training, it could get out of hand pretty quick. So I'm going to leave that alone, and I'll click Save. When I do, it asks me to define the table name, which is suppliers. And I know there's no key defined. Thank you. I'll say no. And we're still in the table view, but now it's eliminated all the fields that I didn't enter information into. So let's close this down. And we can return to any one of these tables that we've created in any type of view that we wish. I'm going to right-click on suppliers and go into Design View, and that'll give me a chance to correct these names. Supplier ID and supplier name. And you'll see it got the data types correct, but we won't talk about that right now. Let's save that. Close that. So my example of creating a table by inputting data may not have turned you on to the idea of doing it that way. But if you already had a list of customers, or if you already had a list of employees that you were trying to track, this may not be a bad way to go. Access is going to look at the types of data you're inputting, and it's going to set everything up for you except for the field names. And I might mention that while you're in this view, it is possible for you to rename the field itself. Simply double-click on the field name, and you can type in your information here as you go. So it's not something that you have to go into twice in order to set up.